So obviously we have the helmet first. It's a 2015. The latest spec in their carbon fiber. So I give that a feel. And it's pretty light.
Yeah.
It's got an air ventilation tube on the side of it for forced air. So you don't see that too much with road course stuff, but the people who do desert racing or off-road stuff, so they have an air filter and an air pump, and it pressurizes the helmet with clean air. It just keeps the dust from getting up in your eyes. If I ever wanted to add refrigeration to my air, I could plumb it through the cool shirt box so I get cold air to breathe. There's some fancy plans like that that never came to fruition. So you notice he doesn't have the forced air on the side, but he does have helmet communications on one side and a drink tube or a cool shirt port or something on the other. I'm not sure which is which. I think that might just be the provision to add one of these things later. And it's also got this eject feature. So a lot of times if a person, they think they have a spine injury or something, and getting the helmet off their head might tweak their spine even more than it already is. So more of a problem again with the motorcycles, and that's where that technology comes from. But these eject stickers mean you pull a tab and the helmet just like pushes itself off your head real gently.
Okay.
So one of these ports, like I was saying, is for communications. And I think that's that one. You see inside there.
It has to be like an electric contact.
Yeah. So there's a standard. I think it's called an IMSA plug, but it's really just some military spec for helicopter microphones or something. And on the inside, there's these built-in ear cups, and there's a microphone up at the very front. The outside shell is carbon fiber, and there's an inner shell in between the soft padding that you can feel and the outer shell of carbon fiber that's basically just styrofoam.
Okay.
So there's like a hard styrofoam, just like the inside of a bike helmet, but maybe a little bit different density. That's the intermediate layer. So the outside keeps your head from getting hit by sharp objects or on roll cage tubing or something.
Sure.
And also just maintains the overall structure. The padding that really saves you is the styrofoam. And then the soft stuff inside is just to make it more comfortable to wear, basically. Come have a seat, join us. Talk about race car safety.
Oh man, I'm going to be taking off here shortly. Or actually, I'm going to be taking off just because I got to get dinner and get ready for work tomorrow and all that stuff. As much as I would like to chill and hang out. I'm going to read the continuity of your video too.
No more trans?
Yeah, no more trans.
So this is always called a Hans device. It's kind of like the Xerox or the Kleenex brand. This is the original one developed back in the late 80s, and they used to be really bulky. You wear it over your shoulders, and so it's not actually attached to your body, it's just sandwiched by the shoulder straps onto you. And then there are these straps on the side, go to anchors on the side of your helmet, and it keeps your head in a crash from tipping forward at too much of an angle, so it keeps your head up straight. So when you crash, your whole torso moves forward, and all the load, instead of being put into snapping your neck, just goes into bruising the hell out of your shoulders. It's just a way of getting the forces away from the most fragile parts of you. And a lot of race car safety has improved just since they started mandating these things. There were famous drivers, even after the cars themselves started getting safer, died from what's called basal skull fractures, from having their head whipped forward, like extreme whiplash basically. Their spine pulls away from their skull and fractures the bones there and like hyperextends the spine from the brainstem, and that just kills you immediately.
Wow.
So if they hit a wall or some other movable object just right and it snapped their head forward, what should have been a survivable injury was a fatal one because they didn't have anything like this. So after a few too many famous drivers died in their prime, they started mandating these things in NASCAR and Formula One, respectively, after their own tragic accidents. And it was still quite a while before they started coming down to the club level because these things are expensive. I held a lot of grudge against Hans in particular for keeping them expensive for a long time, because these things have been around since like 88 or 89 or something like that, and they started to enter the public consciousness little by little, but they still cost $800 or $1,000, and it's just plastic. The really fancy ones that the F1 drivers are using are carbon fiber, but this one is just injection molded plastic. So why is it $800 or $1,000? You think they have to recoup their R&D costs? That's probably the biggest single one. Then how long does it take to do that? At what point have they long since broken even and started turning a profit? And the best argument I've heard about that is that the volume sales of these things are pretty low. They do have to do a lot of expensive actual crash tests with sleds and dummies and things, and that adds a continuing cost to their part to improve the product. And there's not as many people buying these things as there are buying like cars equipped with airbags or someplace else where those costs can be amortized over such a large number of consumers. But I was mad about them, not just because their product was expensive, but because cheaper alternatives came and went and got sued out of existence by Hans.
Oh.
I used to use a Defender, a several $100 cheaper, but still sadly not cheap, head and neck restraint. And some of the other guys here have these Schroff ones, where patent's good for 25 years or something. But they'll have slightly different styles where they might have a little bit of padding underneath it, or they might have different degrees of adjustability or flexibility. These things have tethers at 2 angles and pivot instead of just one like the Hans. So there's comfort, and there's obviously safety is the most important part, but then the adjustability comes at a price of having more things to get tangled up on. So a lot of people like the Hans the best, despite their being basically non-adjustable, because they have only that one strap and they're a really simple design. So if you crash a car and you're in a panic to get out, the more stuff there is hanging off you, the more stuff there is to get caught. So I can see both sides of that. Fireproof shoes.
Do the fireproof shoes have a heel that's padded as well?
There's
Like
different
driving
styles.
shoes have something on the back of them?
Most of these tend to have no padding at all. They're either leather or Nomex in some combination in the upper, and then there's different tastes for how stiff the sole should be. I like the sole to be really soft because I like to feel the edges of the pedal. I don't pivot my whole foot to heel toe. I just sort of roll off the brake and onto the throttle. It's easier for me to feel that if I have a really thin sole. The soles on my shoes, I think, are just a strip of rubber over a strip of leather. They're not stiff at all. They're very flexible. And this one, the Sparkos, you can feel it's a little bit stiffer and a little bit thicker. And some people like that because they like to push more with the toe and sort of keep their heel on the floor and pivot their whole foot. So I think depending on where your pedals are mounted and your driving style and techniques and stuff, different people like a totally different shape and stiffness.
Sure.
The head socks, we got a couple different styles of that. This one's made out of Nomex. And it's got single eye port, kind of like a ski mask. They make other kind where it's all the way enclosed and only your eyes are visible.
Why not contacts? Just personal choice?
Because my hands are usually really dirty when I'm at the track, and there's not a lot of places to wash them. So if I put my contacts in once in the morning, I should be good all day. But if one falls out, or if I need to change it for any reason, then it's inconvenient. So a lot of days, I do bring contacts to the track, but a lot of days I end up wearing glasses. I definitely like the peripheral vision better with the contacts.
Yeah.
Driving suit. This is probably the piece besides the helmet that everyone's going to recognize. There are 2-piece suits available, where it's a pants and a long coat, but you'll see that more with the pit crews than you will with the drivers these days, because the 1-piece suits, they offer a lot better fire resistance, and they tend to be lighter.
Light? Oh, okay, yeah, seamless.
Yeah, because to be as fireproof or to offer as much safety, the 2-piece ones have to have a lot of overlap in the fabric so that you don't have your belly button exposed. So because of that, they have a lot of loose fabric down there. And I think that kind of the same thing as all the extra straps on the head and neck restraints, that the more loose fabric you have, the less fitting it is, the more likely it is something will get caught. So those are cheaper, but most people go with the 1-piece. They have a rating on them, so depending on what kind of motorsports you're doing, you'll see 3-2A5. Most of the club racing and stuff in the US will accept either an SFI or an FIA certification. I forget how long the 5 corresponds to. Like, it might literally be 5 seconds. That would be the easy interpretation, but I think that it doesn't. So there's a 5, a 10, and a 20. And a lot of people are doing drag racing because they're really cocooned in their cars. It takes them longer to get out of a crashed drag racer than it does out of a road course car usually. So they'll require a 20, and they'll have these thick boots and these really thick gauntlets and things on, which gives them more seconds of protection while the fire crews come and cut them out. A 5 is not the bare minimum that's required, but I think that if you wear anything less than a 5 in most of the club racing organizations like NASA, SCCA, and then Lemons Jump, all the enduro ones, if you wear less than a 5, you have to also wear fire-resistant underwear, like long johns.
Okay.
So then the price difference between suits that have the same certification, like if you have a 5 that's a few $100s and a 5 that's a few $1,000s, what are you paying for? And the big answer is the lightness and the breathability. Like this is a 3-layer suit to get that 5 certification. It's Nomex, it's all Nomex, so it's not one of the cotton kind. Those are really heavy. They make ones that have fewer than 3 layers, and they're sewn together in a way that gives them these quilted pockets of air at strategic places, something like that. So that they're actually testing to get the certifications. They put it on a dummy that's full of temperature sensors or something, and actually burn it or put it in an oven or something. And they have to meet that certification one way or another in the real world. It's not theoretical. But the ones that do it with less materials, they tend to just make you pay more for that, because someone put the time and effort into researching how to do it with less materials. It's not like the materials are just inherently better. So like everything else, you're paying for the R&D costs. It's a cool shirt. You plug in a cooler and a water pump. We usually use bilge pumps from Bass Boats or something cheap you can find at Walmart. There is a Cool Shirt brand, and they charge significantly more than Walmart Bass Boat pumps for all the same components. These quick disconnect lines plug into the port on the motor that sits in a chest of ice water somewhere in the car, through all these lines, and makes it less miserable to be in a 115-degree car on a 100-degree day. So before they're requiring the Hans devices, the head and neck restraints, a lot of people, I don't think they were requiring these at the club level, but a lot of people were wearing these because they might offer a little bit degree more protection, but they also just prevent fatigue. When you're in the car, you're going over bumps, your lower body is strapped in, but your head can move around a lot. When you put these donuts on, it gives the helmet something to rest on most of the time, and it makes so that when your head is rocking back and forth, it's more contained and more cushioned. So I think this is more like a comfort and driver fatigue thing than a safety thing, but it's probably safer to have one than not, but only to a certain degree. And this is the one that really made the difference. And lastly, the gloves. These are a Nomex glove with silicone patches on the palms for grip, and they have external stitching. So this is like a big joke at the Man Cave, that external stitching is like the fancy equivalent of anything, so we make external stitching jokes about things that aren't even fabric. Supposedly with the external stitching, it's more comfortable for your hands inside, and so you don't have like a ball of fabric here.
Yeah, of course.
You don't have a ball of fabric at some uncomfortable place like at your knuckles or at the webbing between your fingers. But I've worn both, and I'm really not convinced that you can tell the difference.
I can feel the internal stitching on this end because they had to do it at one point. But
Yeah, on your pinky.
No. Well, oh yeah, on the pinky too, right?
The pinky and the index finger both have it.
I'm feeling it more on the index.
Yeah. So I guess it's on the middle too, and then the inside edge. Oh yeah, we have to wear fireproof socks too. So like everything you wear should be. Even if you wear underwear underneath all this fireproof gear, you want to wear cotton instead of synthetics, because on the off chance that you are in a fire, synthetics melt and cotton doesn't.
Yes.
Oh yeah, here. This is Carbonex, the other material besides Nomex. There's pants, and there's a shirt. So it comes with another SFI certification sticker on it, saying when it was made. A lot of these things that have the date stamped on them are because they have expiration dates, but different clubs have different rules on when different gear expires. Here, give that a feel. It feels normal. You wouldn't know that it was some fancy material.
Yeah, no, just like a nicer cotton type.